Catholic today. We have a really special episode. We're going to talk with Dom and Cass Mann about their story and their journey and the new ministry they're starting. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the new evangelization and how, as Catholics, we can share the faith with people, make it attractive, and engage the social media world and younger generations. So, Dom, Cass, guys, thanks for coming on. How you guys doing?
We're doing awesome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So tell us about yourselves, how, your faith journey a little bit, and what led you, I guess, first to meet, and then how that's led into ministry. Give us the whole backstory.
The first half, and you could do the second.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I had this really deepening of faith right before I met her. And, I tried the different online dating stuff and tried to specifically do Christian or Catholic online dating. And just based on where we are, there's the population is so low that to expand your radius to the whole United States. And it just wasn't really working out. And even with that, it was wow, there's not that many people in the age range that we're in. So then I downloaded Tinder, and she also downloaded Tinder, only for that to be the 1 week that we were both on it, for us to match and then set up a date was pretty incredible, especially because that was the week that I was finally able to give porn over to God. And
Awesome.
I used freedom coaching and was in this program, and I kept going and going, and then eventually I was finally able to give it over. And then it was this is what you're really looking for. You're looking for this type of intimacy, not the screen intimacy.
Absolutely. Wow. So you guys are both committed cradle Catholics that met on Tinder, and it was wholesome and beautiful. That's like a miracle in and of itself, probably, right? Because I feel like Tinder has a whole stigma. Yeah. No,
to put it over the top, we had never even had our first kiss before either. So that's another
really? But well, that's cool. So you guys met on Tinder. The first Tinder dates that you had, not the first match necessarily, or with each other.
I mean, you were
we
one
had
of
gone
the
on
first
a couple
matches.
of them, but
okay,
nothing
nothing clicked.
Yeah.
It wasn't Dom. It wasn't the
No,
one. Yeah,
it
makes
wasn't.
sense. Awesome. So how far apart did you guys live?
15 minutes away. So the funny thing is, my dad was his 6th grade teacher. So we
interesting.
technically, the first time we met, my family was invited to his grad party, and I had no clue that I would be meeting my future husband then. So
That's so funny.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so you were widening the radius, Dom, all the way to the United States just to find love 15 minutes away.
Right.
That's beautiful. Okay, so what happened from there? You've been deepening your faith at this point, and then you guys are getting married, and what happened next that kind of propelled this ministry to start? Tell me about your heart for that.
Mm-hmm. So you could talk about the people in marriage prep.
Oh, okay. So during our engagement, we really wanted to take our faith seriously and keep God at the center of our relationship. So we did every single thing that we could possibly do, preparation-wise, because a lot of people, they focus on a wedding and making this one day perfect, and they don't prepare for a marriage, your entire life after that. So that's where we put our focus on. And we did what book did we read? The Good News About Sex and Marriage, and that really opened the door of NFP and keeping. I don't even know.
Well, NFP and the fact that you don't just gloss over it and oh yeah, that's the thing that you're supposed to do, and more so about at the core why. And that's what I feel Catholicism is as a whole is people will look at this, especially nowadays, is look at the surface level things and then not dig into the reasons and the why and actually get to the core of it, because then you'll see what that surface level thing actually is and why it's set in place and why they recommend doing that and why that's a teaching. So that's what that book really did, was unlock the reasons and the nitty gritty behind it. Because Christopher West is great. He just lets you know exactly how it is, and Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's helpful because then it, all those things that just seem like legalistic rules or like a really hard, outdated thing all of a sudden have this life to it, right? Like I remember we had something similar with my wife and I of like, wait, we're becoming Catholic and now we can't use any form of birth control. That seems crazy. But then when you do that research, right, you're like, wait, this is actually profound and beautiful and I've never thought about it this way. So that's amazing. We listened to some of his talks as well on that part of our journey. Um, so from there, you're reading Christopher West. You're doing marriage prep. You guys are doing everything right. It sounds like trying to make Christ the center. And what happened from there?
a lot of family drama. Our engagement, we kept it 6 months, so relatively short compared to like the typical like 3 years of like preparing for a wedding. Um, and a lot of things happened with my parents and drama between the families. It seemed like everything was just trying to keep us from getting married. Like we were really like there was a lot of temptations and a lot of obstacles that we had to get through. But really, that just brought us closer together. And like when the wedding day came, it was like now we're inseparable. Like this is exactly how it should be.
Awesome. Yeah, sacramental matrimony. And you guys, it's pretty. When was your wedding? You guys were married pretty recently, right? If I remember seeing the Facebook photos.
Yeah, July 29th of this year.
Awesome. How's the first? Wow, what has it been like 3-4 months been? What's October? Yeah,
It's
3
been
4 months.
incredible.
Good.
Yeah, and just little things that you wouldn't even think about of just I mean, even let's just talk about the combining the bank accounts and yes, before you're able to make decisions and like, hey, should I do this? Should I spend this money? What do you think about this? But until you actually do it and it's all in one and you're all in, there's a different feeling and just a different, I guess, atmosphere around making those decisions because you're doing basically the same thing. It's like, what should we do with this? Should we spend this money? Should we invest in that, buy that thing? But there's a whole different type of mindset around it when it's all in one. And that goes with a lot of things when you get married, I guess.
The real question from one video guy to another is, did that impact your gear purchases at all? Because I know for me, that was like, dude, it's business, right? So you're buying all this gear. But when I got married, we've been slowing down on that in the past couple of years because it's like, oh, it's a business expense, but it's also kind of expensive and we should pocket some of that cash, Oh man, you have a really cool setup, and for everyone watching, that's how Dom and I actually have connected. Is that we both do the same thing in very different locations, but now in similar ways because they're starting this ministry. So I was like, we have to have him on to talk about this from one video nerd to another. So
it definitely does impact. They're separate, like business expense, but it's a good thing that she's into photography and video stuff and
that
does
helps.
that. So
yeah, I understand.
It's more of like, should we get this? And we're both excited about it versus like a wife that has no idea about video gear. And they're like, we don't need that couple $1,000 thing that you really want.
Right. So Cass, do you second shoot for him on jobs?
So I initially for my job, I'll back up actually for a second.
Oh, sure.
I got into photography and videography and stuff in high school, and I went to a career center. And when I was getting close to graduating, my dad was like, "Oh, you should give Dom a call. Like, he could give you some advice on."
There's been little things, I guess, throughout the whole time.
Yeah, and so we just talked on the phone. And he was like, "Oh yeah, this camera's good, whatever," and like that was the end of the conversation. Then in high school, I had an internship, and
But it was It was through your dad's phone, though.
Oh yeah.
I thought that I was like, oh, he doesn't want to give me the number to like talk any further.
Smart dad.
Just here.
Yeah. But I had an internship through high school, and they liked me so much that they kept me. And I'd been working at that job. Then I met Dom. And we like got to talking about video stuff, and then we grew our relationship. And eventually it got to the point of, us talking about what's our life going to look like after we get married.
Hmm.
And when we start having kids, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom, so I wouldn't be able to continue at that job.
Mhm.
And so thinking about the future, we wanted to really, really grow the DM Productions business and the Stomp the Serpent ministry and really focus in on Catholic stuff. It just made more sense for me to leave that job and combine both of our strengths to make the DM Productions and the Stomp the Serpent like as the best that it can possibly be.
That's awesome. I'm 100% like team couple businesses. So my wife did something very similar. When we got pregnant with our first daughter, we're pregnant right now, so we have another kid on the way. But our first daughter, she was actually working at the national park, and then stepped down from that, and has actually been helping me with the video business and juggling kids and stuff. And it's so cool to be, and it'll be interesting as your marriage goes on and you get to see this. It's so cool to be united in everything. That's been our take on it, at least, because some people wake up, and if husband has a job over here at this office, wife has a job over here at this office, kid goes to daycare, and that's totally fine if that's your situation, nothing wrong with that. But there's something beautiful about having your whole family together all day and working, and so that's kind of been our experience. It's been really fruitful. So it's exciting to see someone else getting to honestly do the exact same thing. You guys are the same type of business, doing the same type of stuff, and doing it together. So I love that. It's been really fruitful for our marriage. So it'll be cool to see that blossom with you guys. But tell us about this ministry. So you're married. You're both into video. You do a really good job at it. And then what happens next? You get invited to speak at a conference, right? How did that happen? Tell us about that.
Okay, so I guess I was trying to get you to talk about
Okay.
during the marriage prep part.
Got it.
Oh, yeah.
So when we were doing the marriage prep, our mentor couple was like, "You guys need to talk at stuff. Like, your story is really, really inspiring." And so we had been thinking about that for a while, and like, oh, that would be cool if there was something that would pop up along the way that we could, share our story to people. And it just so happened that Dom had a networking like call with the National Catholic Singles Conference director, and he did the video for it. And I don't know exactly how you brought up the conversation.
I don't even really know. We were just talking on it was a Cent Network Catholic networking thing. There's like a random free pop-up one, and I was like, I might as well just join that and see
Sweet.
what it's about. And then, we got to talking about video, and then the conference that was coming up, and then I was like, what? Maybe we could speak at this thing. So then eventually we were able to, after more conversations and figuring out some stuff, that we could speak at the event alongside two other couples in like our little section that we had.
Or it was one couple. Wasn't it one couple?
One couple, and then the other person.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. So that opportunity just arises organically. The real question, did you both film the conference and speak in the conference? Were you wearing two hats?
I was.
Nice.
She was my like cheerleader there.
There you go. Very nice. Yeah. What did you guys speak on? So it's a National Catholic Singles Conference. I can imagine what some of that content would be about, but what was your message? What was your story that invited that opportunity? Because I'm guessing that's probably the foundation for this ministry idea as a whole.
Mm-hmm. So we talked about obviously like what our single life looked like, what our dating life looked like, and leading up into marriage, and then kind of like some tips and tricks and things that you should really be looking to keep and make sure you don't, lower your standards or kind of give up on certain things within the faith just to get into a relationship. Because eventually that's definitely going to build up and cause some major issues down the line.
Mm-hmm.
And then we talked about porn journey and how to, what that looked like and struggling with that for years.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of just, recommendations on the different things to, it's not hopeless. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and to really stick to what you're about and to thrive as a single. Because that's really what I felt like when I was reaching basically like peak singleness or like thriving in the singleness, I guess,
Yeah.
was where the relationship actually came in. Even though I definitely
Mhm.
was desiring something
Hmm.
for my whole life, it was just I didn't really know what that was, and then I was taking that desire out on porn versus uh, giving it
Yeah.
over to God and deepening the faith
I
and
think
making
that's
myself.
I think that's so important what you just said, and especially the component about becoming content and like living out peak singleness, right? I experienced something similar in that, like I all through college and for a couple years afterwards, I really had this deep desire for a marriage, for that type of relationship, and it just wasn't being fulfilled. Um, Obviously, in hindsight, it's like you hadn't met the right person yet, right? But in the midst of that, it's such a hard struggle over like your self worth and what's what am I doing something wrong? And then yeah, like you said, it's so easy, especially in today's day and age, to take that out with something like pornography, something that's destructive and can be degrading to to your humanity, like that, and really can become a snare. But I think the big thing, it sounds like that happened for you, and this is almost like the same thing that happened to me. I started to realize that my life is valuable and I can do amazing things even as a single person. I started to enjoy my singleness, and I literally, that's the exact same season I met my wife in too. So I think there's something to that, right? When you become more confident in who you're designed to be, even in singleness, even if you're not feeling called to that as a vocation, there's something more attractive about that, I think. But then also, even if that part of your life like isn't working out, you still have something that you're working towards, right? You still have value, instead of making your whole identity about having a relationship. That's my take on it, anyways. But I think that's cool. So you're at peak singleness, and then that's when you guys met, and now you're doing these talks. You're kind of sharing. Is that your audience? You think is people who are young and single and Catholic about how to journey in that, or what? Who are you kind of feel like you're most able to speak to, and what's your core message to them beyond maybe some of that initial stuff about singleness and dating and stuff like that?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think the core audience would be the younger side of things, so
Mm-hmm.
youth and teens and young adults,
Mhm.
which I mean, they tend to be single. So I guess
Yeah.
if you want to throw that in there, but yeah, really that the youth ministry and young adult ministry side of things, just because yeah, we're focusing on the branding and the way that we're trying to reach them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, within like the new evangelization and trying to we don't want to water down the faith, but we want to make it attractive. That was the big thing that got me like even more hooked. And as you said, I was a cradle Catholic, but the thing that really hooked me in more was getting out of the porn, but also finding and having God reveal the the things that really attracted me to the faith. So
Mm-hmm.
whether it's some really incredible Bible story or just something really
Yeah.
cool that you wouldn't think of, or you wouldn't really think twice of if you heard it in mass as just going every single
Mhm.
time. But when you read it for yourself and you're like, dang, like that's sick that
Yeah, that really
that
happened.
happened.
Yeah, there's that discovery, right? Like it is kind of interesting to, so from a convert's perspective, I kind of had to climb into the church, like clawing my way in and fighting, because you have all these preconceived notions that you're handed as a Protestant about Catholicism. But for cradle Catholics, what I've noticed is that there almost seems to be this like rediscovery of the beauty and the truth you've been sitting on the whole time. Is that kind of what your guys' experience was with that? Tell us about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. What did that? Was it was it like Scott Hahn and like reading books and stuff, or what type of content or experience would you guys say took you to that deeper engagement and like activated you, to be missional in the sense that you are now?
I think it started off. Dom is really, really good at giving gifts. And this was supposed to be a Christmas present, but we
Mhm.
were like going through like an argument or something like that. I can't even remember what it was anymore. But he had gotten me the alabaster Bibles. I don't know if you've ever seen them
Are
before.
those like the really
It's
cool designed ones that look really? Yeah,
Yeah,
I know what you're
it's
talking
like
about.
the
Yeah,
Bible with a magazine.
yeah.
And I had seen this on my Instagram feed like years ago. And I was like, oh,
Mhm.
I would love those. He had no idea, like zero clue that I had even like wanted those. But he was like, here's your early Christmas present. Like, let's start doing this now. And we started off with the Gospels. We started with
Beautiful.
Matthew, and we would read a chapter a day. And eventually, like within a couple of months, we got through the entire Gospels. That's more of the Bible than I've ever read in my entire life.
Hmm.
And I've been Catholic my entire life. So that's really what started it, is reading it for ourselves rather than just going through the motions of being
Hmm.
Catholic. Okay, you stand here, you kneel here, you're supposed to pray this and do it in this order. And like, you know, that's how you're a good Catholic, if you do
Hmm.
those things. And just taking our faith into our own hands
Hmm.
and like learning about it ourselves. That's really what deepened it and what started this journey
Hmm.
for me, at least.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that it's definitely those, but then standout things would be, uh, and I'm terrible with remembering the names, but I saw a cool TikTok of like the prophets of Baal and when Elijah mocked the prophets,
Yeah.
and just seeing that, like, it was a cool image where, you know, stuff was all on fire, and like he was like, yeah, your God must be, you know, taking a bathroom break or something.
Yep.
And just like cool, interesting things like that, along with visuals, because I'm very visual,
Mhm.
obviously, with the video stuff.
The prophets
Um,
were like the original diss track writers. You know what I'm talking about? Like the prophetic books, that's like the original diss tracks of some of Elijah's stuff. That's so funny. Um,
mhm. And then adoration is a huge one.
Yeah.
mm,
Never went before, never really even heard about it before. And then I, in the freedom coaching program, they're like, you got to go adoration. This is part of it. Like, uh, you got to go. And so I kind of like didn't really know what I was getting myself into, and then fell in love with
mm.
adoration, and also the different types of adoration, like just just when it's silent adoration, and then also when they have XLT with music and testimonies.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool. So you guys have stuff like that, and yeah, that. Tell me about that actually, because we've been talking. I have this idea of doing something similar to that at our parish. We'd have a lot of steps to get through to get there, but what's that like? Because I know that certain parishes have different types of ways that they do things. So tell us about that particular type of adoration, because I think there's a lot of people that maybe don't have something like that that'd be interested.
Yeah. So Dom, like when we started dating, we would go to adoration like once a week before we went to the gym, and he just did silent adoration. And I'm more of like a praise and worship type of gal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would like put the earbuds in and like listen. And then at St. Helens, our parish, the Life Teen young, like the high school program. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
it's called that throughout the country, but it's called Life Teen. And they have once a month a Eucharistic adoration night. They have a speaker, they have like live worship music, and then you just like all of the high schoolers come and like they have praise and worship, and it's like just amazing. And they invite the whole parish into it. So I started that when I was in high school, and just something that I've continued to do like throughout.
That's really cool. What I love about that is it's taking like the best of Protestant praise and worship, and then just saying, actually, that belongs to us too. We'll put that in adoration and make it awesome. I've always thought there's so many good songs that I'm like, this should be played during adoration. So I love to hear that there's places actually doing that. So out here, I'm in a very rural area. We just don't have the musical, I think the musical talent to make it happen with like a nice full band. That's really cool. So you guys have had sort of this deepening of your faith, this call to like take it up for yourself and not just go through the motions. I think a lot of people can relate to that, and that's sort of the task, right, of the new evangelization, is partially re-engaging people who are cradle Catholics, and maybe even for the sake of then re-evangelizing the whole world again and reaching them in new ways. And we're starting to do that through like what the popes talk about as the digital continent, right? The digital world is like this new continent that we're exploring. And I mean, Dom, you even mentioned TikTok videos being helpful for your spiritual development, which on the surface seems like, how would that be possible? But it is, right? There's a way to do this. So tell us about that. How how can we as Catholics, use some of these new tools and some of these new resources, maybe to deepen our own faith, but then also to help reach others, because that's the essence of what it sounds like you guys are wanting to do. So tell me your thoughts on that. What can the average person watching do, and how can they be ignited in the same way you've been?
Mm-hmm. Well, first off, I'd say training your feed to give you that type of content.
Yeah.
You're not going to get it just from going on TikTok or Instagram Reels. You have to train your feed to give you those things. So at the start, I even had to, like, even if I'm not watching the full video or even watching it at all, I see that as something to do with Christian or Catholic stuff. I'll like it and still scroll past so that it's giving me more. And then eventually you start to find that there's good accounts out there and good quality content. It just might take you a little bit to find them. And that's the same thing with music. So you're like, oh, I got to listen to only Christian music. And then you really start to dig in there and you're like, holy cow, there's actually some really good stuff. It's just it's kind of hard to find. So, and then people might think that, how could you really do anything with a TikTok video, or how could you impact anybody with an Instagram reel or just a short video in general?
Yeah.
And the thing is, like the prophets video that I was talking about was that it was super short, probably like 15 seconds. But what it did was spark me to go look up that. I was like, is that actually, like, is how they're portraying it on there actually what happened? And if it is, like, that's really sick.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure it was an AI generated picture or image or video or whatever. But then I looked it up. That caused me to go into this rabbit hole of looking at these cool different stories. And then, yeah. So, I mean, it made me read more of the Bible.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah. I think it's exactly right. I mean, this is what you and I do for a living, right? We make videos that get people in content funnels to do like deeper research on like a product or service, but we can do the same thing with the faith as well, right? Like we can have outward facing micro content that hooks someone into it. I mean, it's kind of weird for those worlds to cross over in a sense, but that is kind of what the play would be, huh? To create engaging content that's going to attract somebody and invite them into a desire for a deeper experience, and then have something for them at that level that's like deepening that experience. And then exactly like you said, ultimately invite them to, maybe an encounter at adoration, maybe to read the Bible more, maybe to go to confession or something like that. I think that's really cool. And what I love about that is that's very practical, right? Like I think there's this whole like, how are we going to do this? There's the world kind of owns social media and it can be so dark, but you just take those practical steps of starting and making something and putting it out there. And I think it can have a lot of success. I mean, it's really cool because I definitely, I'm not like a TikTok guy at all. So I have no idea what's going on there, which is probably for the best sometimes, but it's cool to see that there is a wave of people starting to go into those, digital territories and start to do some work. What are you guys' plans with that? I know that you're going to do some type of visual content creation, right? With the video production skills and all of that for the ministry. I know that also your business is kind of taking that direction as well, but tell me, beyond speaking and sharing your story, what kind of content goals do you have with Stomp the Serpent, and tell us about, what you're hoping to do with that ministry.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to go with that or me?
I mean, the first thing that I thought of was like, why don't we just share like a verse of the day, like have some beautiful video behind it, and then have like a really, really like nice voiceover, and then just a short graphic. Like you see these things on TikTok where they'll be really, really simple, just a motivational quote, and it'll have like millions of views. It's like, how the heck did that happen? And these accounts have a lot of followers, so obviously it's working. Why can't we do that for like Bible quotes as well? So we started off with that, and then we recorded our talk at the National Catholic Singles Conference. And so you'll see like motivational speakers that have viral clips on TikTok, and it's just like, wow, that was a really, really good line. Like, why can't you do that with Catholic content as well? So just taking things that are working in social media and just applying it to the Stomp the Serpent, but accentuating like the beauty of Catholicism through that.
Which I love the name, by the way.
Not letting. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I love the name Stomp the Serpent, but go ahead. Yeah, keep talking.
And not letting the quality dip, though. I see a lot of people, they'll try to take whatever they saw something cool, and then they'll let it dip, and they'll use the faith as an excuse to put out a subpar product. And that's something that I don't want, because yes, you should be paying attention to it because it is something to do with the faith, but that doesn't mean that I should just be so all in on like your subpar thing just because you're saying it has something to do with the faith.
Yeah, and I mean it's more effective, right? Like if we cultivate excellence in the content we're creating and it looks good, it sounds good, it's motivational or it's touching people in some way, it's going to be more effective at conveying the message, right? Like I think there's, a huge place for that, of cultivating excellence in any work we do, anything that we're offering to God as our work, but especially stuff like that, because it's like, if we're hoping to reach people, we're hoping to invite them into a deeper expression of the faith, then yeah, we definitely want to make it as pretty as possible. Cause I mean, our churches are pretty, our tradition is pretty, our faith is beautiful. Our YouTube videos should kind of match that to some degree. And it is kind of, I think it is kind of that weird thing where for a long time, Christian media was like, if it was a Christian movie, you knew it was just going to suck. I think that's changing a little bit, and I'm hopeful in that. The same thing with online content. Like the first wave of like evangelistic YouTube was really terrible, and now it's getting pretty good. And with young people like us starting to take up that mantle, I think it'll only get better. And honestly, big part of it is like the average cost of professional equipment coming way down helps a lot too. You don't need like a $20,000 cinema camera to make something look amazing. I mean, you're on a what, Blackmagic 4K, $1,200 camera with a full-time filmmaker light behind you and a key light and just some cool paint on the wall, and it looks epic. So it's not that hard to make it look good, guys. No, it's a cool set. I also appreciate is that a St. Michael statue? Love that.
Yes,
that's super
sir.
sweet. Cool. So tell us, how can people engage with the content that you're going to start producing? Where can they find you? Where can they plug in and like find maybe your speech? How can people start to engage with Stomp the Serpent? Also, tell me, I think there's apparel coming according to your website. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so the best place to look is on the website, which is just stomptheserpent.com. And then there's links to the socials and everything there. And then I was having trouble hearing what you said.
Oh, sorry.
Apparel. So we're going to be doing, exactly what it says, elite Catholic apparel. And we want these things to be basically to feel like they're almost designer, but not give off that type of, I don't know, that like weird stigma with designer clothes, but something's like very high quality, and we don't make any money. It's Stomp the Serpent is a nonprofit, and we just want to pile all of the money back into whether it's buying shirts or buying hoodies or whatever we're doing for the apparel, to really just make it so high quality that people are like, what is that? And where can I get something like that?
Right. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, and also for it to like Stomp the Serpent, that doesn't really, you look at the logo and you're like, oh, that looks really, really cool. Like I wouldn't expect that to be a Catholic thing. And then for somebody to ask like, hey, where did you get that? Or like, what is that about? And then for you to be able to explain it and say, oh yeah, this is Stomp the Serpent, and like it's a Catholic thing, and for them to learn more about it, but have the initial reaction of like, I didn't know that was Catholic. Like that's super, super cool.
Yeah, it is. It is a really cool logo. Like all of the design stuff that you guys have is really awesome, and the website is functional. Which for any sort of religious organization, that's functional is the bar. But it's like more than that. It's really classy, really well done. Is your guys' talk up anywhere where someone can find it or where I can link it, or are you going to be segmenting it out into like micro content, or how can people find that initial talk that you gave?
It's not currently out.
Okay.
We might release the full one, but we're definitely going to be segmenting out in micro content.
Nice. That's the strategy. That's awesome. Well, cool guys. It's been great talking to you and hearing about what you guys are doing. I think it's really great. For everyone listening, like this is how evangelization is going to look, right? We're all engaged in this digital content or continent, as Pope Francis calls it, and that's the new field of evangelization. So it's time to make content that looks good and sounds good and is well lit, but also has the full weight of the faith behind it. So I really appreciate it. That's why I wanted to bring you guys on, because I really think we need more of that. There is no like limit to how many Catholic YouTubers or Catholic influencers or whatever we can have, because we need to spread the message. So, with that, I mean, what advice would you have for anyone else looking to kind of engage the world in this sense? Maybe start making content of their own or engage in the digital sphere. What encouragement would you have?
Mm-hmm. I'd say don't let gear get in the way. I mean, we talked about how the gear is way cheaper, but if you're just trying to start and just go with it, you can make great
phone.
Content with your phone. I mean,
Especially now they're getting
your
so
phone,
good.
you could use all free stuff, post pretty great content, and then just pay attention to what you're doing and what the bigger successful accounts are doing, and kind of implement those strategies into your own. I mean, I can't remember his name, but there's this funny priest on Instagram. All he uses is his phone, but he's had multiple viral videos, and his account's over 100,000, I think. And so the gear shouldn't stop you. And then, if you're afraid to go on camera, just do it a couple, 100 times or something, and you'll be perfectly fine after that.
Nice.
And also, I think one thing is make sure that you know why you're making the content. Like, is it about you, or are you trying to do it to like get more people into the faith? For Stomp the Serpent, I was like, I don't want this to be about us at all.
Mm-hmm.
The focus needs to be about purely helping people, which is why we don't want to make any money from it. So keeping that in mind, because we watched the Hillsong documentary. It was like exposing Hillsong, and like all of these priests or pastors, they're like making it about themselves and losing what it is to be a part of the faith. So making sure that you keep on your mission is
right.
Another tip.
Yeah, and don't get sidetracked. I love it. Cool. Well, thanks guys so much for coming on and sharing. Guys, check them out, stomptheserpent.com. Is that right?
That's right.
Cool. Yeah, go to stomptheserpent.com. Make sure you follow them on all their socials. And thanks for watching.